Hello. I see a few of you have already joined. Welcome. Um, the chat's open, so do let me know where you are from in the chat box. In the chat box, it'd be good to know where you're calling in from today. Welcome if you're just joining. Do let me know in the chat where you're from. It'd be good to know where you're from. We're just waiting for other people to join. We'll give them a few more minutes. Tanzania and Sweden. I'm from the West Country of England, so maybe warmer than Sweden, but not as warm as Tanzania. What's it like where you are today? Okay, so we'll just do a few 10 degrees. Yeah, it's not much. It can't be much better than that than here, actually. We seem to be specializing in in rain this time of year. The British seem to be quite good at rain. Hello from India, yes. Welcome. So just a few more minutes as people are joining it. Amazing, and then we'll crack on. So I do appreciate you being on time, and it's great to see you. So let's share the screen. And we will start shortly. Yeah, so the people are joining now. That's good. Okay, well, yes, hello to you. So wherever you are, welcome. It's great to see you. And just to make sure we're in the right place, today we're talking about travel consultancy, specifically how you can get an income. And at the end, you'll have the opportunity to learn more about the academy I run and working with me. Also, my aim for the day is to give you as much information as possible and to give you an introduction to my academy. And if you've got any questions, please do contribute and ask questions either as we go or save them to the end. Now, it'd be great to know what you do at the moment. Are you in the travel business already, or you'd like to be in the travel business? Let me know in the chat. It'd be great to know what you're doing at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, Krishna, you're already in the travel business. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So looks like everybody on the call is involved in the travel business already. So what I find is that there are a number of reasons why people struggle in the travel business. And one is going for trip-only customers, perhaps only using a few set of tools instead of using everything that's available. Leaning on technology is something I've seen quite a lot of. Understanding the travel market, while it's developing all the time, so how much of the travel market do you need to know about? And attempting to master all travel is something I come across. I was just wondering if you could let me know in the comments if any of those resonate with you, one or many. Yeah, we got a 4. So a brief overview of the session. So I'm going to be, the good thing is I'm going to be covering all of these subjects in more detail. And I've split them into these 3 sections about how you can develop strategy, how you might optimize the travel consultancy, and what the journey of a travel consultancy might look like. So just to give you an idea of who I am, well, I'm the founder and visionary of the 7-Figure Traveller System, and my commitment is to travel and to turn academy students' travel passion into thriving ventures. In my years of exploring, I've learned and gained insight and expertise, and my goal for you is to provide you with practical knowledge and strategies. So whether you are a globetrotter or a first-time adventurer. Over the many decades I've been traveling, it's been a privilege to explore our world. It's both extensive and diverse. I've found things that have been challenging, but there are also hidden gems. And the most important thing I've discovered is that you can turn what you know into a profitable venture. And using the wealth of knowledge I've gained, in the real world and business insights, I can give you some practical advice. So whether you just wish to enjoy your journey or monetize and create a sustainable income, this is something you can do. Now, at first glance, having a background in IT and sport may seem unrelated, but it's given me a unique perspective on the travel business. And it's given me an understanding of the importance of effective planning and using the right technology. You see, every detail matters, and I'm going to show you how you can leverage these skills. And over the decades, I've been honing what works and what doesn't. And one of the things I've realized is that the voice of the traveler is often unheard. And therefore, my mission is to change and amplify your unique perspective and experience so that together we can bring the best version of you into being. So whether you wish to have personal fulfillment or turn your travel passion into a travel consultancy. So how does that sound? Let me know in the comments. So why is now the right time to be looking at this? Well, there has been a pandemic, obviously, and lots of lockdowns. And the experience I found is that the more lockdowns there were, the more pent-up desire there was. It's a bit like an old style kettle I used to see being used when I was growing up. It was just a basic kettle put on the stove, and eventually when it was ready to boil, it would whistle loudly. And if you left it long enough, it would fill steam in the entire kitchen and maybe the whole house. And as a kid, I also found that because it had a detachable whistle, if I placed it correctly, I could get the whistle to shoot off like a rocket into the ceiling, much to the despair of my father, who wasn't keen on the ceiling turning into the face of the moon. So this pent-up desire, because its desire is so strong, it really is a great time to be monetizing travel. And effectively, because it is a great time, inaction is almost like missing out. Now, sure, you can wait if you want to, but it's, when's it going to be like this again? It's like the story of the tree. When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next time? Now. But perhaps you're not thinking about that. Maybe you just want to know how much you can earn out of being a travel consultant. Well, it depends, because it depends how much effort you're willing to put in, how much time you have, and how much you're willing to invest in yourself. Because, if you're willing to do these three things, you could be earning good money in 6 to 9 months. Now, whilst it's true there are opportunities all around, you may have some self-doubts. Maybe other people have, said there is doubt around these things. Perhaps you think we're working in a competitive environment. But what if you only had to differentiate to stand out? But isn't the economy very uncertain? Well, what if you could create a stable income stream that provided you with financial security? Wouldn't that be a good reason? Now, travelers, I've found, are being underserved. At the time that lockdowns were occurring, businesses obviously had to go in retreat. In the UK, we called it furloughing. And essentially, it meant that businesses became invisible. But the thing that didn't happen, as I expected, when we came out of the last set of lockdowns, companies remained invisible. They started overusing and leaning on technology a great deal. And a lot of people were telling me that they were feeling disconnected from a lot of businesses because they remained invisible. Now, if you have a look at the picture of the two aeroplanes at Heathrow, it's a fantastic example of where technology and people are working together. There's a lot of technology in aeroplanes these days, and more than ever, I would suggest. But there are still pilots in the front of the aircraft. There are still people serving passengers at the back of the aircraft. You still need people to load food on. Your luggage is still being taken on and off by people. There's someone fueling the aircraft. And in the background, where the Airbus 380 is, there's a van pulling the vehicle. Now, at Heathrow, now they have their testing, or they probably implemented it by now. They have what they call follow me devices that push and pull the aircraft in and out of their stands. But it still requires a person to operate it. We haven't yet reached the point where we allow a computer to handle the entire airport operations. So, the best scenario is a good balance between technology and humans, not all of one or all of the other. And this is why it's a great opportunity to be a travel consultant. So I hope that makes sense. So let's look at part one, looking at some strategy. Now, unfortunately, people can be unclear on a few things, and it can be a little bit like going uphill. And there are three critical areas: how to have a well-defined structure, how to navigate complex roadmaps, and how to develop a strong support system that can act as a guide. Because without any of these things, it could be like being cast adrift and being unsure how to turn a passion into a thriving travel business. So let's look at these in a little more detail. So what do we mean by structure? Well, it means having goals and objectives. It's knowing and understanding the what and the why. It's making choices about your target market. Because if you miss any, particularly not having any goals and objectives, you're not going anywhere. And you can miss out on telling people about your unique value and your ability to grow. And you can also experience feelings of overwhelm and wondering where to begin and how to grow. Now, of course, this isn't the only kind of structure that's important, because down the road, you're going to want to have additional people helping you as your business grows, and you need to know where your people are coming from. Now, you may be wondering, well, if you're not at that stage now, why would I need to think about that now? Well, in a sense, it's not leaving things to chance. You don't have to do and to know these things in great detail at the start, but you do need to have an idea where you're going. Now, when we were working with John, he had no idea where to begin. He knew he loved travel and he was looking for a direction. And the thing that he was struggling with was asking the right questions. So when we worked together, I helped him how to frame these questions. And I call this asking and listening. Now, essentially, this is it's building relationships through conversations. And if you've ever struggled with conversations, I always suggest the 3 W's and the H: the what, the where, the when, and the how. So let's look at a few examples of where you might use these questions. Now, if you were organizing a tennis group holiday and your clients want the restaurants, but they didn't like taxi rides, you might ask them what resorts they like. But if you want to tease out the important problem over taxis, you need to additionally ask about the facilities at said resorts. If your clients love island trips, but they don't like small planes, you might ask them when they want to go. But if you want to ensure that they have a smooth ride, you also need to be asking about the aspects they wish to avoid. We all have favorite brands, don't we? So you might be asking people about their brands, but if you want to enhance travelers' experiences, you also need to be remembering to ask about the optional extras, perhaps those special occasions. So collectively, journeys are made up of a lot of things, and sometimes it gets referred to as being predictive service. But I think the real magic is asking the right questions. I hope that makes sense. So the next part is having a roadmap. Now, we've spoken a little bit about relationships, but a roadmap is more than that. It's also about identifying the niche you wish to operate in, your target market, planning, marketing, finance, and compliance. It's about having a system where you can avoid potholes. Now, we don't like driving over them, so why should we accept them anywhere else? And not missing steps, like, for instance, not having your niche. It doesn't mean you can ignore any of the steps. You need to do all of the steps to be successful. And another way of putting it, it's a bit like having a jigsaw with some of the pieces missing. Is there anybody here like doing jigsaws? I know when I've done them, and I've been I always seem to have pieces missing, and I blame everybody except myself. And when I stand up, I find that I had all the missing pieces all the time. So, and it's about doing all of the steps and, going into the various elements and about going deeper when you need to. Now, something I get told quite a lot is that there's a lot of information noise out there on the internet. And for some, it affects people's confidence. So some of the things you might do instead is to identify the area you most wish to work in, and therefore, and work on the outcomes that mean the most. Now, there are often areas, right, that consultants, travel consultants do that are not necessarily seen. Now, a few years ago, I went off into a trip in a desert in Australia, and it is an incredibly beautiful place to visit. But you also appreciate that it's an incredibly isolating place. But as an organizer, or rather as a client, you're not necessarily aware of all the products and services that were put in place to make your experience really exciting. Now, it's not about scaring the customers, it's about being mindful of the products and services you provide on behalf of your customers. I know when I was there, after I had admired the scenery and had seen a truck disappear on the red dirt road, and it disappeared into the shimmering distance, I looked at the coach and it had this long pipe on the side, an aerial and a satellite dish. And there was enough food and water in the back of this coach to sustain 50 people for days at a time. Now, whilst you're doing this, because it's very easy, isn't it, to think all about your customers and not about yourself, because you're just as important as the customers you look after. You deserve a roadmap just as much as your customers do. And when I was working with Joyce, she had a single travel shop, and she wanted to expand to a second shop, and she did. And the thing that she was struggling with was that she tried to run the second shop the same way as the first one, and she micromanaged it. And she was wondering why it was difficult to keep her staff. So when we worked together, we worked on what I call trust and process, which is essentially letting people fail a bit. Because if you think about it, if you trust someone enough to employ them, you should trust them enough to have the flexibility to bring their own perspective to a business. And it will not only help them, but it will help you, because you need to have a broader outlook on the business that's, in front of you. It's a learning process for both the business owner and the people that you bring into the business. Now, this is an example, and I'll be next. I'm going to be talking about the power of stories, and the reason they're powerful, particularly in the travel business, is that they are like examples that you can share with people. So the best way I can do this is to tell you one now, and it's about someone I know in the state of Victoria, in Australia. He loves flying, and a friend of him said to him one day, I've recently been to an airport in northern Victoria, and it's got an incredible coffee shop. So they agreed that they should arrange a trip up there. So they and their 6 friends and their 3 aircraft, they planned the trip, and off they went to this remote airport in the north of the state. But when they got there, the coffee shop was closed. You can't make up these things. So the pilots were so organized that no one remembered to check whether the coffee shop was open. So there they were, all stood on this remote tarmac, them and their 3 planes, and someone turned around and said, "Oh, isn't that the tallest peak in Victoria? It's only 6,000 feet up." So they said, "Oh, well, let's go and let's fly over it," and they did. and they had a wonderful experience. Now, they might not have done that if the coffee shop had been open. And it's about being open to new experiences. Now, of course, you expect pilots to be able to be open to new experiences and to be adaptable individuals. After all, there's a lot of stuff to learn to be a pilot. You know, it's not just about the takeoffs and landings. There's a lot of theory to learn. But even pilots, having done all this taking off and landing, this activity becomes normal. So being open to new experiences and remembering the unusual can actually make trips. And when you send your own clients away on journeys, they too will come back with stories that can be told. And this is why storytelling is such an important part of our business, I think. Many years ago, I used to watch a TV program where the introduction to the program was Strange But True. I can't remember the name of the program, but if any of you do know, do let me know. Do let me know the title of the program in the comments below. So now that we've covered the importance of having a structure and a well-defined roadmap, the next vital pillar is support. Now, support can be both exciting and challenging, but if you have the right kind of support, that is. So support isn't just about getting people unstuck. It's about giving people access to a network of individuals that can help you navigate uncharted waters, can provide you with mentorship and guidance. Because without mentorship and guidance, you can often be left with gaps in your knowledge, challenges unanswered, which could lead to missed opportunities. And it's worth remembering that when you are part of a support system, it's a journey that you're not taking on your own. It's not solitary, because support provides you with the assistance in ways you may find unexpected, including how to navigate problems and find opportunities. So next, I'm going to go a bit more specific around how you can transform your business ambitions. Now, when we were working with Jason, one of the things he was saying about his travelers was that they weren't being listened to. And it harks back to the lockdowns I was telling you, with businesses being forced to adjust and retreating online. And as a result, Jason's customers were feeling underserved. So I worked with Jason on what I call the power of listening. Essentially, it's maybe asking one question and then being willing to shut up. Because the thing that clients are is they are generally smart individuals. They can organize all of their own travel, but the ones that are really the better ones are the ones that are what I would describe as time poor individuals. They could do it, but they'd rather not. Other people I've read about online is that they simply don't know how, or they don't feel confident. Others, they're quite happy to give you, medium to more complex, but they will continue to do travel planning on their own. But once people get to know you, you probably end up in a situation where they'll give you all of their activity because it just makes more sense to them. If they like working with you, they're more likely to give you all of their travel, even if it's, just going to the next town or the next city. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense, because, yeah. So let me wrap up this particular section by sharing a few tips on strategy. So visibility is better than being invisible, because customers want to feel a connection with the people they're doing business with. And the way people express themselves is unique because we are very unique individuals. I remember a person saying to me, "Oh, I saw you the other day," and I said, "Well, I don't remember seeing you." And he said, "Well, even from a mile away, I could tell it was you." Oh, thanks very much. But it's true though, isn't it? The way we move is very unique to us, and customers love seeing this. They love being able to identify with you. Now, at the end of this session, I'm going to be offering you the chance to have a chat with me. And all this is about really is talking about the process we offer through our academy and how you can work with me. And it means being willing to stop everything else and commit to one thing and to trust the process. The real question is, are you achieving what you want to achieve? Because if you're not, you need to jump on a call. Now, you might be wondering, or you might be saying to yourself, yes, I need more clients, but it's the questions that get asked around this that are important. You know, Christmas is coming. I want to buy presents. I'm going on holiday or vacations. I need to send the kids to school. There's the rent on my holiday property next to the sea. And it's those sorts of questions that getting more clients can answer. Okay, let's go on to the next part, which is about how you might optimize the travel consultancy. So what do we mean by this? Well, one way, there are a couple of ways of describing this. Firstly, it's achieving your optimal potential, or to put another way, it's to strategically adjust. And in one area I found ineffective is around what I call personal visibility. Because the consequences of not being visible is not being able to engage with your customers, not being able to gain trust or authority, missing out on the chance to create your brand, your travel brand. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, it really is a crowded market, well, maybe it's because you're not being specific enough. So why not instead consider specificity and visibility? Because these two things are a bit like keys. When you have them and use them, they're like a passport to another world. Now, I used to think that window shopping was a made-up thing. So I thought I'd go and test it. So I went to my local high street, and I found a shop that was reasonably busy, that had products and services I liked. So in I went, and I joined the queue, and I decided while I was waiting to turn around. And pretty soon, people were looking through the window. Now, there's a psychology to this. If you think about it, if someone's willing to put their nose up against the window, they've already made a decision that's making them feel a little bit warmer about your product or service. Now they want to know is if they like you. Yeah, because people buy things from people they like. And okay, so it's possible to do this in a shop, and the best shops I've seen are usually corner shops because you have windows and two sides and you can see people from all angles. But a lot of business these days now takes place on the internet. So becoming visible on the internet is really important in this situation where people want to know what you look like. So visibility can be summed up in a number of ways. But the most important element of visibility is to get people to make decisions. Because if you think about it, none of us want to be surrounded by people who can't make up their minds. Therefore, people who say yes and no it's a really important part of the process. The next part that's equally important is the content that you provide. Now, content comes in many forms, but clearly you don't want to be vague or confusing. And let's also bust some myths here. You don't want to be the same as everybody else. You don't want to match everybody else. So again, like visibility, content is made up of a number of things. But the most important thing, you will not be surprised to hear, is that it also influences people in making decisions, both visibly and in your content, are really strong in this regard. And when I was working with a lady called Chloe, who was sending people off on journeys, an example she was telling me about, she sent people off to the lovely city of Bristol in the West Country of England. It's a city made up of hills and a famous bridge by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. But the problems only happened for Chloe's clients on the way back. It was chaos on the railways. Everything that could happen did happen. People invaded the railway tracks. When that was sorted and the train arrived at Exeter, the train broke down. All the replacement trains had failures in their air conditioning systems. So I was talking to Chloe about what I call adapting and preparing for journeys. Essentially, how do you react to change? Now, when it comes to adapting, you could have waited for an hour and there may have been more train services, but it's also about setting expectations. When you're actually there, you could learn how to step back and let other people lose their heads and not yours. And these are really two important aspects when you're helping your clients, because how you deal with these situations, it does have an effect on your client's confidence, because when they call you, they want to hear a calm voice, don't they, at the other end of the phone. And another thing to say about expectations is that sometimes one of your roles is to be aware of the products and services you're sending your clients with. So being aware that perhaps it's an exceptionally hot, busy Saturday, for instance, you might say, well, that might, you might experience some congestion. You might, trains might break down because you can't change the physical things that happen, but you can change the way you think and the way you adapt to change. So we've looked at adjusting. What is refining? So refining is thinking about the smaller things. Now, recently, I went to a regional airport in the southwest of England. It has a reasonable turnover of passengers, 10 million per year. It has a dozen airports that serve it. One airline in particular is the dominant airline. And on the day that I went there, I noticed that this one airline had the biggest queuing system out of all of the 12. And as I opened this light and airy terminal, I had the sense that was already tension in the air. Luggage trolleys were being bumped into other trolleys. Voices were being raised. And I was thinking, my goodness, these people haven't even reached the front of the queue yet. They're going to need a second trip to get over the trip they haven't gone on yet. So how could they avoid that situation? Well, they could have showed up a little earlier. Perhaps that airline has an online checking system, so that all they needed to do when they arrived at the airport was to just drop off their bags. But you may be surprised to hear that not all airlines offer these services. Some low-cost airlines, you're lucky to be offered a seat, let alone anything else. So what might the alternative to this be? well, you might suggest that they go to another airport, even if it's another hour or two away. Why? Well, think about it. If you're going on a business trip, you want to arrive in the best possible state so that you can be the best person you can be. If you're going on holiday or a vacation, you want to arrive at your destination in a relaxed state so the rest of that holiday or vacation goes the same way. So if, in order to achieve those two objectives for your clients, it meant sending them on an initial 1 or 2 extra hour journey, wouldn't it be worth doing that? I think so. You've got to consider lots of things. Now, there is a saying that I've heard that change is inevitable, but how we react to change is optional. Now, recently, I went on a trip to see some friends in a city called Letchworth, Garden City. It's a city about an hour north of London. And when I'd seen everybody, I knew that on the return trip, there was probably going to be delays. I'd probably show up at Letchworth station and I'd have to wait an hour for the train. When I got to London, it might take me an hour to get across the city. When I got to Paddington, I might have to wait up to an hour for my train, and again for my next connection. But what actually happened was what I least expected. I sauntered up to Letchworth Garden City station of my train, and within a couple of minutes, my train arrived. I got on, it left. When I arrived at Farringdon in London, my door opened opposite the Elizabeth line escalators. I went down. I arrived on the platform. The train came in. I left. When I arrived at Paddington, the Elizabeth line, the new station, opens up into this massive concourse, and it's opposite Paddington Platform 1. My train was sat there. I got on it. It left. When I got to Exeter, my next train was ready and waiting for me. I got on that as well, and that left. So journeys can be remembered because everything goes right, because usually it's not that frequently. It's not frequent, and you tend to remember them. Now, it also happens in other circumstances too. I play sport quite a bit. I'm not very good at it. And I can think on, the fingers of my hand, the number of times I feel I've played to my best ability. Now, I thought, oh, well, it's just me. I don't play very well. But I also like reading biographies of sports people. And I was surprised to see that my favorite sports personalities, they too could only think of 5 times in their entire careers where they played their sport the way they wanted. So change, therefore, is a very common thing. In fact, one can say it really is inevitable. So I hope that makes sense. So we all want to be in front of our ideal clients, don't we? So what do we mean when we say it'd be great to show off? Well, what this means is showing how good you are at the area of travel you are most interested in. But you might be asking, well, how good do I need to be? Well, to be effective, you only need to show your clients enough. You only have to be good enough. And the purpose of that is to give them enough confidence. Because if they have enough confidence in you for the one thing that really means something to you, they are more likely to trust you with their travel plans in other areas that you know less about. Now, this might seem counterproductive because you might think, well, I'm trying to get disciplined in lots of different areas. But I found that the complete opposite is true. Yeah. So when you show how good you are at the thing that really means the most to you, because that's obviously, I would expect you to know the most about it and be the most comfortable talking about it. It is that dedication that you show those customers that are more likely to convince them that, well, if they can be good at that, they could help me in all my planning. Now, technology is becoming an increasing part of our lives, isn't it? And as now that clients are demanding more, good experiences, they also want an experience in a technical way. So if you think of companies like Amazon and Apple, some of the things you might think about those companies might be they have a quick and responsive service. They operate on their mobile devices. So therefore, if you want your clients to have an equally good experience, your technology needs to do something similar for them, because it's really about, one of the contributory factors here is the amount of time you keep them on your piece of technology that you're working on with your travel consultancy. And it is clearly a contributory factor. And if it works for the bigger companies, it will certainly have a similar effect for you. And it's about collecting moments. Yeah, collecting moments. So if you're selling champagne, you'll be wanting to show lots of pictures and videos of people enjoying the experience of drinking champagne. So by the time you or your clients are ready to have their first glass of champagne, you've already added up all the bubbles. Not that I'm saying I like champagne. So, to summarize this section, the importance of visibility, incredibly important. Focusing on what matters to you, yes. Simplifying your messaging is a big contributor here. And clearly, you want to be where your customers are and to operate in the niche that you're most familiar with. And yes, your customers do want a great experience and a great technical experience too. So how does this all add up together? What can a travel consultancy journey look like? Well, the thing is, there's always been travelers, even when there was a smaller version of myself at this place called London Airport many years ago. And where I'm standing, this was on top of a building that was called the Queen's Building. And the area just below, there was a tuck shop, and there were speakers blaring out the conversations of the pilots talking to the air traffic controllers. It was non-stop excitement. And at this time, this year, there was a complete 360-degree view of the entire airfield. Little did anyone know that this place would turn into something called Heathrow. But the journeys you experience never end, because when you think about it, journeys may have physical beginnings and endings, but it's what these journeys leave inside of you that really contributes to everything in your life after that. It helps you to make decisions about where to go, when to go, what you liked, what you want to do next time. It's incredibly powerful. And in the old days, it's difficult to remember, isn't it, that what we lovingly refer to at airports called gates used to be these open plan experiences. This one in Dubrovnik was typical. I mean, you could just waltz off the street right up to the aircraft and observe it where I'm observing it. And when it was time for the aircraft to leave, someone would just wander down the steps, check your tickets, and then you were allowed to walk across the tarmac and board your aircraft. In this particular aircraft, it had a built-in set of stairs at the rear. And if there was a bit of a queue to get on, when it was your turn to get on, the stairs would bounce up and down. And if you were on there for any length of time, you were really keen to get in. Now, the sharp-eyed amongst you might have spotted a bicycle. Well, it is a bicycle of sorts, it's got fire retardant equipment stuck on the front of it. I always chuckle when I see this because I'd love to have seen the advert for this. Only fit people need apply. Anyway, hopefully Dubrovnik has improved its fire department since the heady days of the 60s and 70s. And these journeys we go on are as unique as we are. When I was on this boat with my grandfather, he used to be in the Navy and he was a submariner. And he was at a time of the 20th century, the first half of the 20th century, when hardly anybody used to go traveling. He got incredibly unique experiences. And of course, as a small person, I would stand up at the end of the boat and tell my grandfather that I was the captain and maybe he should consider scrubbing the decks. No, clearly he just giggled at the end of the boat. And sadly, I never got to know him as an adult, but I'd love to have known where he went, what journeys he was replaying, because that's what journeys do to us. You know, our journeys stay with us, particularly the ones that mean something to us. They stay with us forever. And that's one of the services we're providing, yeah? Journeys and memories. Now, you really are in control of both your journeys and your destinations, because it's more than just about the physical beginnings and endings. It's the way, as we've been discussing today, it's how you think and adapt really determines what happens in journeys. Hopefully, KLM are now using more up-to-date aircraft than this. Actually, a few years ago, I went to a museum and I saw an aircraft like this. And I was absolutely horrified because I've not seen one for about 3 or 4 decades. And it looked fragile. It looked as if it had been thrown together in a garage the night before. And yet, at the time, it was regarded as the latest technology, which makes you wonder what it needed to replace. Okay, so the point of this meeting today is not to make you like me, it's to tell you the truth, and I hope that's okay. Because one thing I see a lot is that people are wasting their time doing stuff. They're putting so much work into so many different things and not getting the results they want. And I think it's really sad, you know, to put a lot of effort and not get out of it what you want. And one thing that comes up a lot is they're looking for a roadmap. Now, in my experience, there are usually 2 kinds of people that come into an academy. There are the experienced people who are just looking for a compass and a route map, and those who are inexperienced who need everything. But of course, the reality is we're all somewhere in between, aren't we? So the importance of this is not to miss any of the steps along the way. Now, you may also notice that we have a start, but we don't have an end. We have outcomes. Now, outcomes are incredibly important. And you would not be surprised to know this is the very first thing we always talk about in the academy, because if you don't know what yours is, it's going to be difficult to achieve anything. And outcomes, the purpose of outcomes is to fill the gaps in knowledge that you wish to fill. Not going for trip-only customers, using as many tools as you need to get the job done. Using technology, but using only the parts you need. Understanding the parts of the travel market that is relevant to you. And not, therefore, trying to be the master of everything. Now, one area I'd like to work on is this business of identifying what works and doesn't work. Because if you think about it, if you need to be able to measure how you're doing. If you can't measure, how do you know if you're succeeding or not? And this is a really important skill to learn, to get used to loving numbers. Numbers can become your friend. And how we go about this is by having lots of steps. Yeah, so we work through all the steps and we make sure that you feel comfortable in each of the areas. We also run a community in the academy, and the community is not just about gaining knowledge, it's about sharing knowledge too, because you might meet other travel consultants that are similar or even like you. Now, what differentiates you though is your perspective. Yeah, it's your perspective and your uniqueness, your visibility, your content that will get you your customers, and the perspective of others that will get them their customers. And that's an important element you should be aware of. But you can gain lots of knowledge and contribute knowledge in a community. Now, later down the road, you will indeed want to either hire people or employ people. But another angle that I'm looking at and currently developing is a team of specialists formed specifically for a travel consultant community. Because one thing that happens, right, as you grow, you need more help, but you also need to sleep, right? You need to eat. And your customers could be on the other side of the world and need to speak to someone. So a bank of specialists that could do support work for you may be an option for you a little later down the line. So what might your journey look like? Well, it's being shown how to do this properly. It's about applying knowledge as you go and gaining knowledge as you go, but it's also about being a consultant from the day you join, if you're not already. It really is turning strangers into best friends. And if you're willing to follow lots of steps, you can earn good money in 6 to 9 months. But you need to build a process. And it's all about relationships and turning them into future friends. It's using all the tools available. It's giving and providing your customers with that human touch and experience that they're currently missing in a lot of other places. Clearly, you want to craft the solutions that your clients are looking for, and do so in a manageable fashion. And when you add up all these things together, what you'll get at the end of this process is the ability to craft journeys, to adapt to any situation, to be able to prepare for anything, to be a responsive individual, and above all, to deliver the value that your customers want. Now, you don't need to be the master of all. You just need a process, right? And a plan. Now, I recognize that you are passionate and you deserve to get results, which is why I'm offering this opportunity today. So if you'd like me to personally help you get a consistent flow of customers, then I'm got something you should look at. And what I've done is I've built a roadmap which utilizes the power of listening, improve your visibility, to focus on the area that means the most to you, to bring out your uniqueness, because we all have this built in as standard. And yes, to have the ideal client sat in front of you. And to do so by following a roadmap, by following steps that give you the necessary confidence in all the areas, to give and to receive feedback, to take an active part in a community, to take advantage of a bank of specialists as you feel you need it. So what do you get inside this academy? Well, you get 12 months access, you get all the feedback you need, you get all the resources you need, You get accountability because we all need a bit of a push. You get weekly calls of myself, access to the community I've been talking about, and down the road, support specialists, should you feel that's appropriate to your business model. Or for a monthly fee, and it's only available online. Now, I've got 10 slots open today, but over the next 3 days, I think I've got about 30 overall. So if you feel this is something you'd like to jump on a call with me, then do so. All you have to do is to either follow the URL thing at the bottom or hover your phone over the QR code. So just a reminder of what's in the package. So there's 12 months access, there's feedback, there's access to resources, there's the accountability, the weekly calls, access to the community, and the possibility of plugging into support specialists. Now, in addition to the calls I'm offering today, for the first 5 people that actually join the Academy, I'm going to be offering an additional clarity call, because I think it's really, really important that people get super clear on what their outcomes are, because it has such an influential, it's so influential on your ability to achieve what you want to achieve. So if you want that, you need to make sure you join. So all you need to join is to either follow this web URL or hover your phone over this QR code. And so I thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. I'm now willing to take any questions you might have, and I'm willing to stay here as long as you need me. So please do ask any questions in the chat, and I'll stop screen sharing so we can look at one another. So yeah, do ask me any questions. Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to have told you, to have shared, I mean, yes. Okay, well, if you don't have any questions, that's not a problem. It's been my pleasure and my privilege to chat to you today. So thank you very much for attending. And if you've chosen to book a call, I look forward to speaking to you in more detail. Okay, well, be safe wherever you are, and make sure you and your future clients have a great experience and bring back happy memories. Thank you very much. Bye for now.